Welcome to another episode of the APWASI Wine Buzz. There's often the saying, what a gentleman looks like, acts like, and is the personification of. Our next guest has all of those qualities and encapsulates them with every step, every word that he makes. Spain could find no finer ambassador for this wonderful product and for the gentleman that he is. Today's gentleman is the head of the Consejo Regulador de Jerez, which is the ultimate and top authority of sherry worldwide. Today's guest is Cesar Saldaña, and I would like to extend a truly warm welcome to you. And on this day, for taking the time, happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Thank you very much, Clinton. It's really a pleasure to be here with you and share some time talking about sherry with all the people that follow your programs.
Thank you so much. Cesar, during this interview, I'd really like our audience to know about the man, the person, his direction that he's going to pull sherry into the next century and the decades that are lying ahead of us. You've been associated with the wine sherry for over a decade, Cesar, and your role is vitally important. But how did your career begin that eventually led you to this pinnacle of a position that you now have?
Well, I mean, my career in the world of wine has been linked to sherry for a long, long time. I mean, I've been working in the sherry trade. Well, first of all, I was born in Jerez, so I'm a local guy, and in my family there was a tradition. My dad he worked he used to work for a large company here in Jerez for González Villas, the producers of Tio Pepe. He spent most of his career in that company, and but my first job was in something very, very different. I did my studies in Madrid, and I did my first. In fact, my studies are originally in finance, so that was yeah, that's my very first background. But then I moved a little bit into marketing issues. I first worked for an American consulting group for Arthur Anderson, long ago. Yeah, very long ago. But then I managed to get back to Jerez, and I started working for González Villas, where I spent about 7 years, mainly in the export side of the business. I was, traveling around the world, selling sherry, selling Tio Pepe, to be precise.
Of course, yeah.
And
I've had many a bottle.
well, at that time, but it was quite interesting to work for that company, because at that time González started a policy of they started to purchase some other wine operations in different parts of Spain and even outside of Spain. So the portfolio I was working with was quite wide, with cavas and red wines, white wines, spirits, and then I moved to another sherry company, Sandeman, the House of Sandeman, where I was a commercial director for 8 years, and that was also very interesting because I had the chance to work pretty. I was pretty much involved in the port side of the business too, and I was also head of the commercial operation of the House of Sandeman in Oporto for 4 years. So that was also very interesting. And then I moved back to Jerez and to the Consejo Regulador. I joined the institution as general manager. In fact, more than 10 years ago, 22 years ago, in the year 2000.
22 years ago.
Yeah,
yes.
that's right. That's right. And then, well, I've been running that position for all this time. And when Beltrán Domecq, the former president of the institution, retired, that was October 2020. I was I was elected as new president of the Consejo, which is for me, having spent so much, such a long time in this institution, is something very, very special, because being at the top of the Sherry institution, being from Jerez and having worked most of my life with Sherry wines, it's really an honor, a privilege, and a big responsibility.
It is. It is a huge responsibility, but I think they could find no finer man in yourself, sir. You know,
Thank you very much.
when we talk about, you know, many of our audience may not know about the Consejo Regulador de Jerez. You know, it's over 80 years old. And what is its mandate and objective?
Well, I'm sure all everyone in our audience is familiar with the concept of denomination of origin, or appellation. Here in Europe, and particularly in Spain, we have that that figure that protects wines, or in fact, we have denominations of origin also for other products. But in the case of wine, we're talking about wines coming from specific region, and responding to certain methods of production, which are the result of long traditions. So Jerez is a denomination of origin. Sherry wines are a denomination of origin. In fact, was the very first one to be created in our country back in 1935. And every denomination of origin has a Consejo Regulador, which is the managing, the institution that manages the DO. In fact, it's a quite an interesting institution, because we are kind of half public, half private. I mean, it's an official institution. In fact, yes. We're dependent of the Spanish government, but we are in a way it's a self-regulated sector, right? So every 4th year we have elections here in Jerez. All the growers, and we have about 2,000 growers, and all the producers, all the winemakers, we have about 100 of them. They choose their representatives, right? They choose what we call their vocales. So we have 20 vocales. 10 of them represent the growers. 10 of them represent the shippers, the winemakers. And these 20 vocales, as we call them, they are the board of the Consejo. They choose a president every 4th year, and as I said, I have the honor of being the current president. Now, what do we do at the Consejo? What are our functions? We have mainly, let's say, 4 primary objectives or functions in the Consejo. The first one is, of course, to regulate the industry, right? So all the rules, all the decisions to be made about what's the maximum crop this year, or whether we allow irrigation this year because we're having a drought, or anything related to the rules and regulations of sherry making is a function of the Consejo Regulador. Second one would be the defense of the protection of the deal. Unfortunately, sherry wines are, like it happens with some other reputed names worldwide, like it happens with port or champagne, are quite often are misused. I mean, are names that are not always, respected. Let's put it that way. So we are. Another important function that we have is to defend, to try to protect the name from abusers. The third function is promotion, right? Obviously, the sherry name is a collective asset of the producers in Jerez, and we try to make it better known worldwide. We do a lot of education, but we also do some marketing campaigns in specific markets. So promotion is also a very important part of our duty. And finally, and last but not least, another important objective, or another important function that we have is certification. Our team of inspectors, our team of auditors, they supervise plantation and harvesting and winemaking and aging. All the process of sherry making is overseen by our personnel. And finally, if everything goes okay, and after blind tastings, after a number of controls that we run at the Consejo, we certify the producers, we certify the wines as DO sherry wines. So this is basically what we do. 4 different areas, all of them quite important to, let's say, to guarantee the authenticity of sherry worldwide.
Well, that's very inclusive. I mean, covering the regulations and moving into the protection, and then the education, marketing, and where you've just mentioned the authentication of it. So very vital today. And I think we have many areas in the world where there are those that claim to be sherry, but not really sherry. And Cesar, we now live in a constantly changing environment, highly digitalized, experiencing generational transition as well. How do these affect the growth and sustainability of sherry as a wine of choice?
Well, you're right. I mean, the environment is quickly changing, and well, changes have always been there, right? But nowadays it seems like they come quicker and I mean faster and deeper. Well, of course, our primary objective as an industry, as a wine, is to make sure that there is a next generation of sherry drinkers, and that's our primary objective when we talk about communication and promotion, because well, I mean, in the case of sherry, particularly in the case of traditional markets, one of our main concerns is that the average age of our consumers is, well, relatively high, right? So this is no doubt one of the primary objectives and one of the primary goals of everything we do in terms of marketing and communication. I think what we have to do, and in fact what we're doing, and what the houses in Jerez are, most of them doing, is taking advantage of all these digitalized environment, and taking advantage of the capacity to communicate with wider audiences nowadays. Sherry is a different wine. Sherry is a wine that needs an extra effort in terms of communication compared to other wines. I mean, if you sell wines, I don't know, red wines or white wines or sparkling wines, well, you can always give a reference. If you get into a new market, you can always give a reference, and okay, well, my wine is from this particular region that is similar to that other wine that you know. In the case of sherry, there's always an extra effort that we need to take in communication. And quite frankly, having access to the digital world is a huge help, a huge aid for us in our endeavor to communicate the specificity of sherry, the differential character of sherry. So we well, more and more into the digital world, trying to take advantage of it to communicate the very special character of our wines.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree with you. You know, for many, the visualization of sherry, albeit incorrect, is of elderly people sipping sherry before a meal.
That's correct. Yeah, but
and there's those that claim it's not moving with the times, as it's considered a drink for the older people and not the young. Now, that's not necessarily true in my opinion, but what's important, in your opinion, how has this perception of sherry changed over the last 2 decades?
It's interesting because you're right. You're right. This has been the image of sherry drinkers, of sherry users, of the sherry drinker profile for a long time. And still, it is in some places and for some people. But things are changing. Things are clearly changing, and we can see that. In fact, one of the ways that we want to address this issue is trying to communicate not just the wine, but the way we enjoy the wine locally. Because Spain, in fact, is our largest market in terms of sales.
Yes.
In Spain, is not that image that in Spain, sherry is pretty much linked to the idea of tapas, informal occasions. Is a very gastronomic wine. Is very we never have sherry without food in Spain. I mean, it's always linked to it can be just olives or almonds or some little appetizers, or it can be the tapas, the world of tapas, which is that very Spanish way of dining, and very informal, in which we go from one flavor to the next, little dishes.
The sort of
And
Spanish dim sum, the
correct,
small
correct.
little dishes. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Very Chinese too. Yeah. But yes, sherry is the wine to go with tapas, right? It's the wine to really enjoy. So for any Spaniard, the image of sherry is not that one of elderly people sipping from a little glass before dinner. I mean, that's something that nobody would understand here. So what we're trying to do is to
Yes.
communicate not just the wine itself, its characteristics, whether it's dry or sweet or pale or dark. No, I mean it's the whole proposition that we try to. And quite frankly, I mean, sherry, albeit as you said, that image, sherry, it's a terrific gastronomic wine. I mean, it's a perfect wine to go. It's got such a versatility and diversity that it goes so well with so many different cuisines that I think this is where we have our opportunity for the future. This is where we really need to continue working, trying to transfer, trying to export to other places the way we understand sherry wines in Spain, which is
Absolutely.
always as a very gastronomic wine, as a wine to be enjoyed with food and in the company of friends.
Yes. I can share with you, our audience and listeners out there, my personal experience having been to Jerez and having taken the Consejo Regulador International Education Program, that it is not just the sherry itself or the tapas, it's that combined, but it's the culture. It's the
Absolutely.
culture. When you walk down the steps or the paths of Jerez, you can transport that to other parts of the world. It's truly the culture. And I can see that there's been enormous changes and inroads. I mean, the International Sherry Week is now in its 8th year. You have sherry trails in the UK, Japan, and in China. So the question I'd like to put to you, Cesar, how effective are these in terms of sustaining sales and growth for sherry?
Well, Sherry Week is a very good example of what I mentioned before. I mean, how we can leverage all the people we have worldwide who are really in love with sherry, and how can we put them in contact? How can we make them sort of ambassadors for sherry, right? One of the interesting things about sherry is that you probably need an acquired taste to really get to love sherry, but once you have acquired that taste, you're lost forever. I mean, you're a sherry fanatic.
It's true. It's very true. It's like certain foods,
Yeah, correct.
Like there's an Asian dish in a stinky tofu. Some find it absolutely abhorrent, but once you're hooked, you're hooked.
Absolutely. And the beauty of sherry also is that having such an incredible diversity. I mean, you may be attracted to sherry because of a fino or manzanilla or cream sherry, but then once you're a sherry lover, you can discover such a wide range of and so going back to Sherry Week, what we thought of well, some 9 years ago was, or 10 years ago, I don't know how. I think yeah, you mentioned we've been in our 8th edition. So when we started with this idea, it was all about putting in contact all those sherry fans that we had around the world, and then having them celebrate sherry together, making use and taking advantage of all the digital technology, right? So that was a terrific idea. I mean, we were not sure what was going to happen, but after 8 editions, we see more and more events taking place every year. More and more people, really sharing their love for sherry, their creating new experiences, sharing with their friends, and their and so it's a very good platform. Obviously, at the Consejo, what we try to do is to create platforms so that the sherry producers can then use them to leverage sales and make their specific brands more known and better distributed in the different places. So I think it is working very, very well. We're very, very happy, and the houses, the producers are also very happy, and so more and more they're getting involved in these activities that are popping up every time we announce Sherry. We see lots of people all over the world with new initiatives and asking to be involved in the program. So we're very happy with this. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear, because the digital world has literally broken down borders and the physical barriers that one had before.
That's
now,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally the Sherry Triangle, it says has 7,000 hectares divided into 2,300 vineyards that are registered with the council. Now, 7,000 hectares is not an enormous area in the scheme of things. And I know that, the main grape is Palomino, and, the traditional Sherry Triangle, Jerez, El Porto de Santa Maria, and Sanlúcar de Barrameda. But now, last year, you've increased the type of varieties. You've increased the areas. You've increased the more what would seem to be the flexibility of being a DO, and what you are doing is really to enlarge that. What challenges do the bodegas face now when facing sherry? Do you see more bodegas getting involved as a result of this?
Yeah, we're increasing the number of bodegas. Obviously, what we have is new, small companies being established, but we see also medium-sized companies being established in the region. Now, the changes in the regulations that we approved in July last year, and that will be effective in September this year, because I mean, things take time, and even though we approve those rules, now they have to go. Here in Europe, all DO regulations have to be approved in Brussels, right? So it's a slow process, but it'll come. I mean, next September everything will be finalized, and
you mean this September?
This September, yeah. September 2022. So what we have done is about grapes, talking about grape varieties, what we have done is to recuperate some of the old varieties that were cultivated here long ago, before phylloxera, right? When the Consejo, when the DO was created back in 1935, for a number of historical reasons, there were 3 varieties that were really being cultivated. But in the 19th century, before phylloxera, there was another 6 varieties which were quite popular for a number of reasons. In terms, it was the yield factor, but also, well, there was a number of reasons that determined that these other varieties were not really, you know, very popular when the deal was created, and they were not included in the regulations. But there are a number of growers, you know, and there is one institution that we have, a research center that we have in Jerez called Rancho de la Merced. And these guys have been working with these old varieties. And finally, we are ready now to open our regulations also to recuperate those varieties. So in fact, this change is about, it's not so much creating new things or opening the door to new things. In fact, it's recuperating something that we had in Jerez long ago. And also the other important change, which is about enlarging the aging zone. In fact, what we're doing is we are allowing the bodegas in what we call the production area. I'm sure you remember that we have what we call the Sherry Triangle, which is, as you well said, Jerez de la Frontera, el Puerto de Santa María, and Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Up until now, is only in these 3 towns that you can age sherry. As you know, there's always a minimum aging for sherry wines, and that aging, that maturation process has to take place in these 3 regions, 3 towns. But in fact, our vineyards, the area, what we call the production zone, which is where the vineyards are planted, includes other 6 municipalities which are around the triangle.
Correct, yep.
Now, what we're doing is allowing those producers in the zone, in the production zone, but outside of the Sherry Triangle, also to be able to age their wines, right? So, in fact, it's quite a fair move, because for 85 years since the deal was created, all the bodegas outside of the triangle, they were able to grow their grapes,
but not make it.
Correct. Well, they can even make the young wine, but then the young wine had to be transferred to the bodegas in the triangle for completing the process. Now what we're doing, we're allowing these companies, these bodegas in the production zone also to age, which is, quite frankly, I think it's a very good move. We're not talking from a volume-wise, it will not make a big change, because obviously most of the production capacity is in the triangle. But I'm sure a lot of new bodegas and some of the former bodegas that were already working there will have a bright future being part of the deal, with all the rights of being part of the deal.
So that's very exciting news, and it's quite seismic. I mean, it's a big major change, you know, certainly in the last sort of 85 years. Now, Jerez to me has always been a very romantic area in this parts of Spain that I've visited, if not the world. And when we, at the Asia Pacific Wine and Spirit Institute, we focus on education and culture. Culture is a huge mainstay, because, as you know, you can learn about areas and regions, but it's the people. Now, APWASI is one out of what we define as 4 main wine education bodies of the world. But we're the only one offering, because of our determination to really put, like yourself, sherry up there so people can see it, let it sparkle, glitter, and be brilliant. So we are the only one that has a full sherry online course. Now, the Consejo currently has an online course itself, which I've taken. And it's, yes, I took it because I wanted to be able to make my own assessment. And it's a very informative one indeed. Now, how successful has this particular online course been? Because in your opinion, for us at APWASI, education is paramount, and sherry education is one of them. But how successful has this course been for you?
Well, you're right. Education is key for us. I mean, as I said before, sherry is well, for any wine, sorry, education is very important because, as you said, wine is not just a product; it's a whole culture. Is
Yes.
is a and being able to communicate that and to explain what is behind the bottle, what are the how are the people producing, what's the climate, what's the soil, what is the process, what's the history of the region. It's of the utmost importance, and I think that it improved dramatically the wine enjoying experience. So in our case, the uh, the uh, the fact that we created an online platform is a result of the pandemic. Quite frankly, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we have different programs, but we had to stop all the programs because obviously people could not travel, and so we decided to go online also with education, and now there's it's been quite successful. We have I think more than 2,000 people that has completed we have two levels. We have the basic and the advanced, and in total I think we have like 2,000 people who have completed since we launched it in I think it was October last year, September, October last year. And we launched it in Spanish. Now we have it also in
English.
English, and the also another role to be played by this online course is that we're asking everyone coming to our programs in Jerez to go through first to go through the online. So it's a condition to participate in the Sherry Educators course, in the sommelier course that we have. We have different levels of education programs in Jerez, but everyone attending them, they need to go first through the online, which is for us is very interesting because then we guarantee there is a certain minimum level that is covered by all the participants in
Yes.
in our seminars.
I think that the course itself, it's great. It's informative, and certainly when we at APWASI developed our course, we expanded it. Ours goes up to about 15 to 17 hours, and
Wow.
and it incorporates, because we truly believe, myself having been through your educator program, it was something we really wanted to support, and
Thank
we're
you.
very happy to do that. Now,
Thank you very much.
of course, Cesar. You know, we mentioned during the course of the conversation that the largest market traditionally used to be the UK, but
Hmm.
now it's Spain.
Hmm.
What efforts are being made to reach the world's most prolific growth market, like China?
Well, definitely, the UK has always been the kind of reference market for sherry. It's our main historic market, and in fact, as you well know, many companies have British origins in the sherry trade. I mean, there's a lot of companies
Historically. Mhm.
with English names. So there's been always a historical ties with the UK, and this is the reason why it's always been so important to us. But I mean, definitely we need to expand our markets and our it is a fact that most of the producers, most of the houses are trying to reduce their dependency, their concentration in the UK and Spanish markets, which are both of them quite large. For us, obviously, fast expanding markets like China are a priority. The US is a very clear priority too for us. So I would say these are the two regions in the world where we see more efforts being put by the houses, by the sherry houses, and where we expect to have more growth in the future. Of course, Spain will continue to be very important. In fact, Spain is growing year on year. And the UK, this is something very interesting that happened in the UK during the pandemic, during the months of the pandemic, and where because we have grown dramatically during the time of the pandemic in the UK, which was quite quite weird. I mean, we were not expecting that, but and there are two reasons for that. First is that there's always a certain percentage of the British population that is traveling abroad, right? So they have second houses in Spain or Greece or Italy or South France. So for one full year, they could not travel. They were there, right? And they were at home, and they were doing something that traditionally, I mean, they were developing their traditional habits, consuming habits, and one of them is drinking sherry. So we found ourselves with more population, more British population in Britain, at home, and drinking sherry. But the second interesting thing is that and we've made some consumer studies during the last 12, 16 months. And we've seen that also that fact of being at home and being different members of the family, and there's been a kind of a transfer in these consumption patterns. And we have seen how the average age of the sherry drinker has become younger, which is always very good news, right? So it's interesting what has happened in the UK as a consequence of the pandemic. But anyway, that's something very, I would say, anecdotic in a very important market for us. But the future for sherry, no doubt, it must be also outside of these traditional markets. It must be in those places like China, like Asia Pacific in general, right? And definitely North America, where we also see good growth and good potential for our wines.
Now, Cesar, you and your team carry the future of sherry on your shoulders. Where do you see sherry in 10 years' time?
Well, quite frankly, sherry will remain a small region in the worldwide context. I mean, it's only 7,000 hectares, but with this small size, I think we will continue to build a reputation for being an exceptionally a wine of exceptional quality, and more than any other thing, a wine with an identity, a wine with an authenticity, a wine that is the result of a place, a culture, a climate, a history. So a number of factors that make of sherry a very unique wine. We see growth, and we think we will grow, but not dramatically. We will be. Our vision is that sherry will be more better known by wine lovers in general. That sherry will be part of the wine assortment on more and more houses and restaurants, and very important that sherry will be more identified with food. I mean, will be incorporated or will be accepted as a gastronomic wine, a wine to be enjoyed with food. This is our vision. This is what we're working for, and I'm sure that with a little help from our friends like yourself, we will achieve our goals.
Yeah, I mean, for the audience, if you've never had the pleasure of a Fino or a Manzanilla or a Oloroso or, Palo Cordato, I encourage you to try that, not just on its own, but also with, as Cesar has mentioned, the food, which is impeccable, the history, the culture that goes with it. And I wanted to ask you on a personal basis, Cesar, what's been your most memorable sherry evening?
Well, there was a sherry evening that I will never forget, and that was when um, my dad finally convinced me to come back to Jerez and start working for the sherry trade.
Okay.
And that was a long conversation in Madrid around a bottle of sherry. Well, that really changed my life, and it's one of the many things why I'm so grateful to my dad. But then I've had many memorable sherry evenings, but I think that one was very special because it literally changed my life.
Well, as they say, there are those turning points in life, and for Cesar, it goes truly hand in hand with a gentleman that I know you have respected, your father, and what he did for you, and also now you are the father of the future, leading sherry into the next decades. I believe certainly that the world of sherry is in safe hands, and we congratulate you, and we would be more than happy to assist. It's been a pleasure having you, sir, on our interview. And for those of you, once again, if you've never had the opportunity, please go out and experience a part of Spain.
Thank you very much, Clinton. It was a true pleasure talking to you and sharing some time. I hope next time we see each other in person and we can share a glass of sherry in Jerez or in LA, wherever you like.
It'll be my pleasure. Thank you very much, Cesar, and enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you very much. I will.
Please comment, like, share, or subscribe to our videos.